The Utah Jazz got a tutorial on what is the best in the NBA from the Boston Celtics. And Ron Boone's deserted me. So it's a solo edition of POSTCAST coming up next here from Boston.
You are Locked On Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
It was a tough night to start for the Utah Jazz, and it stayed that way all night long. I'm David Locke. The Utah Jazz fall to the Boston Celtics 126-97. They trailed by 36, and they never led in this ball game tonight at all. The Jazz just really couldn't get it going early. If we go back to the very start of the night, the Jazz open the night. Chris Dunn misses a layup. Fontecchio gets the rebound, and Dunn, it's a fast break off a turnover by Jaylen Brown. And the Jazz have what looks like it's going to be a fast break layup, and Dunn gets blocked by Tatum on a 5-footed. Fontecchio tries to tip, follow, misses. The Jazz, then Lauri Markkanen goes to dunk it and is blocked by Jaylen Brown. And coming back the other way, Jason Tatum drives on John Collins in the open floor, and the Jazz foul. One free throw, 1-0. But this opening sequence of plays by the Celtics just showed their superiority. Tatum blocking Dunn on a layup. Fontecchio missing a follow. Then Jazz kick it back out off the offensive rebound that went out of bounds. Markkanen driving the basket on a tight curl on a beautifully executed play. Thinks he has a dunk, and Jaylen Brown blocks it. Then the next possession, Simone Fontecchio tries to drive one-on-one and commits an offensive foul on Jaylen Brown. Derek White hits a three from the top. Markkanen misses a three, and Porzingis goes and gets the ball on an early offense and a post-up, making the Jazz look diminutive. Fontecchio drives to the basket. Jaylen Brown is there defensively, and a fast break half-court set drive, and Drew Holiday dunks with one hand. Chris Dunn then tries to drive a 4-footer, can't get it. Tatum misses a shot because Dunn blocks it, but then followed by Jaylen Brown, and it's 10-0. Jazz missed their next shot. Finally, they get a stop. Sexton makes 2 free throws to break it, but the Jazz proceed to miss another 3 shots before they get their first field goal at the 8-minute mark of the first quarter. And that was it. That was it. And Ron Boone rejoins me now. Just a stunning kind of, and Ron, the part of that opening stanza that jumped out at me at the time, and we mentioned at the time, was just the physical dominance. The Jaylen Brown blocking the layup, blocking the dunk, Jason Tatum blocking the layup, Drew Holiday dunking, Porzingis getting it down low on a small guy. They just were physically dominant from the first second of this night.
And that you take the air out of anybody. I mean, especially when this team is undefeated at home. You almost have to be perfect, especially at the beginning of the basketball game in order to beat a team like that. And then they just make so many good plays to keep you from doing what you need to do out there on the floor. That can take the air out of you very early.
I mean, this is the best team we've seen this year by far.
Without a doubt. And what I like about this team, and I think Scott Morris, told us about this before the ball game, is the fact that they play fast, and their play is what we call unscripted. I mean, they just play basketball. And true enough, they set some screens and they run a few isolations. They run a few back picks or something like that. But their game is fast and in transition, and they have athletes that can play isolation basketball.
The 2 stunning stretches of the night are the open of the first quarter, we were just talking about, and then the open of the second quarter where the Jazz go, I think, another 7 or 8 field goals without scoring. Where they just rushed? Was the Celtics' physicality and length and defense just so much bigger than they were?
I thought that had something to do with it, David, but I also said early in the ballgame that the Jazz had some good looks. I mean, they had some very good looks early in the ballgame. I mean, it wasn't like they were just turning the ball over and every time they drive, they get cut off or something like that. They didn't have they were getting a few good looks. The ball just wasn't falling. And I get the feeling that if the Jazz would have made a few of those shots, it probably would have been something different at the start of the ball game. But as you know, and you've been in this game long enough, that when a team gets rolling, putting that fire out, especially with as talented as this team is very hard.
Boston had not lost in this building all season long. They still have not. There was no doubt in that. The Jazz went 5 of 27 shooting in the first quarter, 1 of 12 from 3. In the second quarter, it did not get much better. They finished 15 of 49. Well, I guess it got a lot better. They were 10 of something in that quarter. They scored 25 points. They went 4 of 20 from 3. For a long time, they were hovering below 30%, which is something the Jazz have only done 6 times in franchise history. And, our opening to the broadcast tonight was about the elite defense of Boston. Like they switched 1 through 5, and that was another one that was really noticeable tonight. The Jazz Jazz almost looked like they were buffering. Like if you think about like the circle of death on your old computer when you used to be like on a dial-up and everything's buffering, that's what the Jazz offense looked a lot like tonight, where they just couldn't even get started to make the first pass because they would run their actions, and Boston switched it so well that nobody was open.
Yeah, switching 1 through 5, and you got a 7'3" player that can do that, and you don't have to worry about him at the point where you're beating him off the dribble or something out on the perimeter. We've talked enough about zones that their man-to-man switching defense is, for the most part, they protect the paint there very, very well. So this team, as you just mentioned, is probably the best we've seen all season long, and the Jazz didn't handle their 1 through 5 switching very well in the first.
Well, I spent a bunch of my pregame show with 2 brilliant women, Ashley Battle and Allison Feaster, both WNBA players when I called the WNBA, who are both at the Boston front office. Danny Ainge hiring both of them here in Boston. And I literally said to them, like, your team's perfect. Like, it's perfect. And, oh, well, this or that. No, like, really, this team is really pretty close to perfect. And we didn't see, like, to me, the ultimate glue guy in this roster, which is Al Horford. Like, Al Horford's got a little bit of a defensive liability at 37 years old, but he is another just perfect. But adding Drew Holiday, who I gotta seriously wonder whether if Milwaukee knew when they made the Dame Lillard trade that Drew Holiday would end up in Boston, is it actually worth making the Dame Lillard trade? I might go with no, because he is so perfect for them. He's their 5th best offensive player, Ron.
He's so many players and so many critics talked about, oh boy, Milwaukee's going to be this. They got Damian Lillard now, but what they lost with Holiday, opposed to what they've gotten out of Damian Lillard, they got a ton of scoring. But what they don't get is the defense and probably the playmaking ability there as well.
Yeah, and, Lillard's a world-class Hall of Fame player. But, boy, you look at Boston, you got to go. If they're switching 1 through 5 and switching leads to isolation, who are you taking? If Al Horford's not in the game, who are you taking?
Hard to say.
Because, Porzingis is a pretty good defender at 7'3". Obviously, that's the one you want to get out in space. But I don't think there's much of anyone on this Boston team that you can go take.
Well, and add to that, so many teams now are zoning. And we saw what Milwaukee can do to a zone with a 7'3".
You mean what Boston can do?
What Boston can do to a zone with a 7'3" player like Porzingis there in the middle.
All right, let me go back to one ominous comment for pregame and see what your thought is. Will Hardy said that this road trip was going to test our emotional stability. Can we keep ourselves level and not go rogue when things go wrong? Do you think they went rogue tonight and got out of their systems? I'm certain they didn't keep emotional stability. I saw Jordan many a time and some others, and they definitely, like Will said, they're going to hit 3. This team's going to hit 3 threes in a row. They take 44% of their shots as threes, and they shoot them well. At some point, they're going to make 3 in a row. How do we deal with it? It was a little bit more that they couldn't score, and how do they deal with it? So what's your feeling on the emotion, how the Jazz handled their emotional stability in that?
Well, I didn't think that early in the ball game. No, they didn't go rogue. I just thought they missed some shots, and Boston got rolling. And I'm sure they've done that to a lot of teams in this arena. Get off to a great start like that, and just have big time problems trying to put the fire out. Second half, for early in the quarter, I thought, okay, the Jazz are going to make a little mini run. Not that they're going to win this basketball game, but just playing well and taking something into Philadelphia, that you didn't start with in this ball game, probably would have been, and give them a B for that.
They did not do that. All right, stars tonight. I'm going Sarah Todd. of the Deseret News, who made a debut on our broadcast, stepping in to give us a ruling that I didn't know on a jump ball that I was wrong about, that if a ball gets knocked out of bounds and the officials don't know who made the call, who the ball went off of, the two players involved must jump it up. Unless the officials are unclear who was involved, then anybody can jump it up. So I'm going with Sarah Todd as one of my stars tonight for joining us on the broadcast.
And I don't have a star at all. I mean, we don't have to give a star.
Well, no, you really kind of are supposed to.
How? Where? We don't. You didn't set the rules earlier.
No, the rules.
We have this.
The rules last year were that
star.
we gave stars in every game. This year we've gotten much more difficult in our grading.
I don't know.
John Collins had a double-double.
John Collins would be the only one that I would want.
Because his box score line is good. What was his plus minus?
Minus 28. David, this
it's really hard to find a star when you're down 36 in the first half.
Yeah, that's.
Who made shots at the end of the second quarter that prevented us from having the worst offensive first half in history of the franchise? That would be my star, whoever that was.
Second quarter.
Ron, Derek wants to give the Leprechaun a star.
Derek said that.
Somebody named Derek wants to give the Leprechaun a star.
No, we can't. I don't like that Leprechaun.
Ron's not happy, Derek. Ron, now I have to deal with an unhappy Derek. I have to deal with an unhappy Ron for the rest of the night. This is your fault, Derek. Now I'm on the plane next to an unhappy Ron Boone, and it's your fault. That is the end of POSTCAST tonight. See ya.